welcome to PSYCOW. I'm Kyle,
I'm Stacy.
and this week we have a special guest, Bill Zebub. If you do not know Bill, he makes I I get
Some of the craziest films you will ever see in your lifetime.
yeah, I don't know where the thought process starts with someone like Antfarm Dickhole and Jesus Christ Serial Rapist. Hey, he's definitely not for everybody. But I mean, mad respect for him for doing what he wants to do.
Exactly. And, I noticed he said he doesn't work with a budget. He's like, I have no budget. And
Right.
that's like, he's like, I'm just doing what I want to do. And that alone,
True
that's,
indie.
yeah, 100% my respect for that.
Yeah, well, the B-list movie scene, it's kind of big right now. There's a huge following with it, with Thanksgiving. The third one just came out. They skipped the sequel.
But yeah, and it was amazing.
With like Ginger Dead Man 3. I mean, a lot of people like B-list because they like laughing, but they like monsters as well, I guess.
And
Go ahead.
it's honestly really, really hard to find good monster movies anymore because it just seems,
Yeah,
it's just,
ever since
they're just,
Poultry Guys, it seems like it just died out.
yeah, everything. That's a excellent choice, I guess, but I don't know, like it just seems like Hollywood is so into the remakes right now that anything original is either sitting on someone's desk and they're just ignoring it, but we just need a really good monster movie out there.
Yeah, the only monster movie we have right now is Guillermo del Toro trying to put out fucking Ghost Mama.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no more monsters in movies, and with Bill, he even brings out monsters from time to time with like Night of the Killer Pumpkin.
Right. And that's 100% my respect, even if it's just this low budget, put a pumpkin on somebody's face type deal.
Have you seen that movie?
I have not.
Oh my god, it's ridiculous.
I would assume so. Just alone, like I was watching interviews with Bill. I think he was at whatever conventions up Cinema Wasteland up in Cleveland, and he was just having the time of his life down there.
We're about to interview him now. So I guess without further ado, let's get to the interview. So we are here with Bill Zebub, and he is a horror icon in the. Would you like being called the King of B-list?
King of Z movies.
Yeah, everyone is calling his new moniker, I guess, is the King of B-list. That's actually a movie coming out dedicated to you. Did you have anything to do with that?
Let's see. What is the official story of that? A Victoria's Secrets model likes my movies, and after seeing my documentary, she decided I'll make one the same way, which means that it'll be bad. And I released some footage for that, and a lot of that footage is stuff that I guess you could call it bloopers or behind the scenes that was from my sex horrors. And the reason why they never appeared on sex horrors is that I didn't want to break the illusion. So the reason for that is like Breaking Her Will is a movie where you're supposed to be disturbed the whole time. And if you see behind the scenes of us laughing,
yeah,
it'll destroy the illusion. So I just now realized after all this time that if you see that movie, the illusion's going to be destroyed. So I might as well have put it on the horror movie itself.
Well, that's
Anyway.
kind of like that Forgive Me for Raping You movie. I mean, that movie went way away from your kind of typical horror movie comedy kind of thing.
Yes. What can I say about that? I wish that we had more time to do it. I might have cast it differently, but maybe it was experimental. I don't know. Is that one of the movies you've seen?
Oh yeah, I saw it last night.
Okay.
It was it was a little different than what I was used to seeing from you.
Yeah, well, I guess, how can I put this? All right, I just now parked, so I can give you my full attention.
Okay, cool.
I'll take my seatbelt off. Ah! All right. I accidentally discovered that the so-called sex horrors make a lot of money. And rather than being the kind of guy who makes movies for money, well, that came out wrong.
I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah, all right. Let me start that over again. sex horrors, I found out, sell very well. But I didn't want to be known as a guy who makes roughies, as they used to be called in the 70s. Although I think the movies I make are rougher than the roughies were.
Right.
Anyway, I use the profit from those movies to make movies that are very high risk. And by high risk, meaning they'll be banned or they won't sell at all. You know, movies like Rap Sucks, Dirtbags, where it's very questionable if they'll even get into stores. You know, so this way, I can make the movie and not care about anything.
Right.
You know, I just make the movie the way I want to make it. So.
Which is why we have so much respect for you, because you just have the balls to do whatever the fuck you want to do. In a world where everyone's worried about what Hollywood thinks and if they're going to make money off of it, you just do what you want to do, and that's awesome.
Exactly.
Well, I have noticed going to horror conventions all over the country that independent movie makers are ashamed of being independent. And they seem to be making demos for Hollywood, almost as if, you know, like, here's my movie. See, I abide by all your rules. Why don't you embrace me as one of your own? And that clique is very hard to be part of.
Right.
You know, why not just enjoy your freedom? You're not going to make a name for yourself just following the rules. You know, I take my cue from music. There were a lot of bands that in the beginning were hated. You know, what the hell are they doing? That'll never work. And they became forefathers. You know, I'm not saying that I'll ever be a forefather, but. Well,
I mean, I think Stacy would agree that the independent scene, I think, is more alive than the mainstream scene, because I think, I know I do. I strive to see things that I've never heard of or things that I've never seen before, and you're not going to find that when you go watch, you know, the fucking Possession or something that, you know, Guillermo del Toro's putting out. It's the same shit over and over again, just revamped.
Definitely. And that's what I look for in a movie. I look for something that's going to shock me. I don't know why, but that's what I want. I'd much rather see that than some scripted, terrible Hollywood movie. I don't know why. Just sometimes those budgets really...
I mean, that's why when I see a film called Antfarm Dickhole or Zombie Christ, I have to watch it because it's something I've never fucking heard of before.
Exactly.
So
yeah, Antfarm Dickhole in a few months will be released in an alternate version called Human Ant Farm, and that's for the mainstream stores that were too afraid of the vulgar title. And the reason why it's an alternate version is I don't like to double dip my fans. So, you know, every movie that I make, I try to have at least 4 different takes of each cut. So whenever you see someone walk into a room, that's been filmed 4 times. You know,
right.
Each shot is like that. So I'll try to put in shots that you've never seen, and maybe you have a different bonus movie. So if you are a fan and you see that and you're thinking, wow, I've never seen this before, and you don't read the synopsis, you know, you won't feel fooled at the end of the day when you get home. You'll be happy that you have something a bit new.
Well, let's go all the way back to the beginning. How did you get into the horror world? What made you want to make movies?
Well, the very, very beginning was when I received a video camera as a gift. The first thing I did was go out in public and I interviewed people. That's actually preceding my magazine. And I think that was how I developed my style of sort of being normal in the beginning and then getting very odd, you know, seeing how far I can push people.
Right.
So, I'd interview people in malls saying that I'm a college student, and then when I had 2 hours of footage, I'd contact everybody who participated, and I'd give them a dub. And then that went into public stunts. I've always known derelicts. I've been a derelict myself, but there are limits to the amount of damage my body can take.
I've done that too. My knees are terrible right now from getting hit by a car.
Well, you know, it wasn't unique to us. You know, when Jackass became popular, a lot of people said they were ripping me off, and what they didn't understand is, you know, maybe if you're sheltered or if that doesn't occur to you, you know, that's one thing, but people all over the country have done things and filmed them or videotaped them, you know, back in the days of videotape. So I wasn't angry. Jackass never ripped me off, you know. I don't have a monopoly on going into supermarkets dressed as an old lady or whatever.
Right.
Like knocking down displays and things like that, falling downstairs.
But every young male has done that kind of shit before. I mean, and they just had the know-how to go, we can film this and make money on it.
Yeah, exactly.
We were doing it for free. We were stupid.
Well, I was doing that for free too. We were basically just entertaining ourselves. I was editing from VCR to VCR, and then one day at a party, there were there were a lot of people who were in these public stunts, and they hadn't seen any of the footage, and I just asked if I can go into a room, turn on the TV, and put the VHS into the VCR. I know those terms might lose some of your younger audience.
They're archaic now, yeah. No one knows what the fuck that is.
Yeah, so anyway, by the end of the tape, most of the people in the party were trying to get into the room. People were howling. And it occurred to us that this is funny to people outside of us. And so I stupidly abandoned the public pranks, and I started making skits. They were just odd skits, and they were bad because I didn't really know what the structure of a story should be or a structure of a skit should be. I just started it as strange. It got stranger, and that ended in a way that, you could never predict. But it wasn't really good story writing. I thought to make something funny, you cram as much jokes into it or as much funny stuff as possible. I didn't know that it actually had to have a story flow. And I guess you could say the same thing about my movies now, but but fast forwarding many years of doing stuff like that, I was talked into making a full-length movie by a scream queen, and she said that she'd help me out and she'd get her friends to help out, and that it probably will get picked up if they're in it. And so as I said before, I didn't really know how to make a skit, let alone a full-length movie, so I bought a book by Sid Field about screenwriting, and I wrote Metalheads, and I filmed it as a practice movie, and it had Darian Kane, and it had Susie Lorraine, and I forgot who else was in it. It had a Grimoire girl. Grimoire girls were girls in my magazine.
Right.
That's a whole other topic, but essentially it was a practice movie, but I paid the girls to be in it, and that separates me from a lot of independent people, even people who make movies for profit, and that even as a student of film, I paid people to be in it. If a girl's even in a bikini, she gets money. So that I made a lot of VHS dubs, and it got into the hand of a distributor, and I was asked, what do I want for the rights, which was really bizarre because I was thinking like maybe in 5 years I'll be good enough to get distribution, but I got distribution on my practice movie.
Right.
By the way, that Metalheads is not the Metalheads that's available today. I remade it in 2005, I think, because
right.
After the 5-year contract was over, the distributor wanted to renew the rights. And I was thinking about just giving them a re-edit, and I looked at it, and I was thinking, oh, my God, this is terrible. I cannot let this continue.
You kind of pulled the worst horror movie ever made. You remade them.
Ah!
No, okay, so I spent last night watching both of them, and you told me I'd seen the original. I'd never seen the remake, and when I watched it, I was like, you were so right. The remake is so different. But it is a lot better, and it made me laugh. I was dying laughing watching the remake.
I'm so sorry that you have watched the first one. I was talked into releasing it under my name, but it was basically just some friends having fun over the winter. Because at the time I was inexperienced, and I thought, it's February, we can't film anything. Obviously that's not true, but back then I didn't know, and so I had 6 weeks where I knew I'd be paralyzed. I had nothing to edit. So 6 weeks was all we had to write, film, and edit. And we were supposed to replicate the movie. And for those of you who don't know who Replicate is, it's my uncle. No, Replicate it's not burning a DVD. It's the factory stamped DVD that's the retail version. You know, it's not a burn. Anyway, we're each going to contribute. You know, we began as 13 people, and it ended up being 7 divided by 1,200, or how much it cost. And we each got our own allotment. And then because they fooled me into putting my name on the movie, the distributor wanted it. The reason why I'm staggering is I don't want to tell this story. I don't want people to go out and find that version.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait.
But basically, I'm ashamed of it. I wouldn't be ashamed of it as a home movie or something that was fun for friends to do.
Right.
You know, to pass time, but that's not really something for fans.
The remake,
you know, or for the general public.
And like you said, the remake was so much better, and it was. I mean, and I think the comedy in it was so much. It was delivered so much better. You know what I mean?
It's because I actually put effort into it. and you know, I was so desperate to have the first version destroyed that I told Netflix, the guy who worked there at the time, the acquisitions guy, listen, if you send back the first version, I will send you double the amount in the new version.
Right.
You know, I will admit one thing that you might find interesting about that whole fiasco. Until then, I had not made a horror movie. And I was just dreaming of the day when horror critics would have a horror movie for me to write about, horror sites. Because I was going to horror conventions selling comedies, which it was really funny. It was also aggravating to people who were next to me watching comedies outsell their horror movies. but anyway, Netflix immediately wanted 900 copies of the movie when it came out. And then a week later wanted 800 more. And so I could have ridden that cash cow because, you know, if Netflix was ordering that amount, imagine what everybody else would want.
Right.
But then I happened to read a review from a horror writer. I usually don't read
you can't read reviews.
Well, it's different from fans or people personally writing to me because I think that I learn from criticism, and I also want to know what makes people angry. But the review was spot on. You know, there was I didn't take insult to it. I almost felt like apologizing to the guy for making him watch such a bad movie. But I realized that was career suicide. If any more of those copies get out, and if people equate my name with that movie, I'm finished. So I destroyed everything I had, except for one, just as a reminder, never do this again. But I wanted Netflix to get rid of all theirs. Every appeal I made to them to just destroy them, I'll replace them, fell on deaf ears. I think Netflix has both copies, or both versions available. I wanted to ask fans to rent the first one and then scratch it so it's unplayable. But I think that I would be liable if I actually went ahead with that request. But I am ashamed of it. And people seem to have great delight bringing that first version to me at horror conventions for me to autograph.
They're just kind of rubbing it in your face. You hate this.
Well, it's just like doggy potty training or a house training where you rub his nose into the crap and he won't do it again. So I will never do that again.
Did you want to get the next one, Stacy? Is she there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. I had my mute button on.
Oh, okay.
I'm a woman trying to figure things out, I guess. But
at least you know.
Yeah, I do know. I'm aware. But I know you say you don't like to read reviews that much. But have you ever gotten like somebody that's just like full on rage with one of the movies that you made?
Back in the days of MySpace being relevant, I had about 13,000 friends. I don't know how many friends are on there because pretty much logging in there is just asking for spam. Nothing else.
It's true.
So I rarely go on there. I know that people in other countries still use it, so just in case somebody from somewhere else is trying to contact me, I'll log in. But I think the name of the site is somethingawful.com, and I guess one of their writers or one person with the site noticed that I had a pretty sizable following and decided to review a movie. And the movie that he decided to review was that very first movie, Metalheads, which, as I said before, was my practice movie. It wasn't the remake. And the person hated the movie so much. He began the review by saying it was a waste of time to watch, but his review was so long that scrolling down forever led to a page 2. It was so long that I couldn't even read it.
Oh my god.
What movie was it?
It was Metalheads, the first Metalheads. So I don't mind being insulted because I based my career on being insulted and being hated, but I don't abide people being tough on the internet, and the review sort of was like that. And so he was on my list to bitch slap because I travel. And and so I don't live that way anymore, but it was all from the magazine days where I used to really insult people, and it wouldn't be really funny if I were just the person who hid. So I had to go to every show possible and answer every challenge. You know, at least face people, you know.
Right.
So I carried that over into the movies, and I was thinking, you know, this guy has to be confronted face to face. But you know, it's the other side now, where I'm going to slap him rather than I will be slapped by him. So part of me was thinking, you know, if the site is called somethingawful.com, could it be that they just rip everything apart?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah,
Just thinking, like, why would the guy choose a movie that's my very first movie, you know, and not even remotely the best one?
Well, I know that site too, and that's what they do. It's like Rotten Tomatoes I have beef with, but because, you know, they're bullshit too, but at least they watch everything and rate it accordingly to how they feel. With websites like Something Awful, they look for things that they see on the internet that are either intentionally bad or that people complain about a lot. They watch it and they do their bullshit reviews.
Right. Well, ultimately, I was very happy for that review because I can't imagine anyone reading the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say
They'd rather watch the movie.
I couldn't. But the thing is, back then I used to track traffic from my site in preparation for monetizing it. I've never monetized my site, so I don't really care about that. You know, tracking is pretty much for showing advertisers, like, look, this is how many people come and say hi. But that review resulted in 30,000 additional unique visitors, because I had a baseline. I knew how many people visit. And then I was thinking, that's not that bad. And then I had a spike in sales for that. I was a little aggravated because that's not the movie I want people to see as the first Beelzebub movie, but actually it was the first Beelzebub movie.
Well, I mean,
it is appropriate. Bad
reviews are good reviews, really, because when someone tears your film apart, everyone wants to see it now.
Exactly.
Yeah, as I said, I built my reputation on being hated, being called the worst, and so you can't hurt me by saying that to me.
Right.
I just get mad when people are tough in the reviews.
Oh, it drives me crazy. They would never say that shit to your face.
Right.
Yeah. What attracts you to use Debbie D? And I know Carrie Taylor's been in quite a few of your films as well. But I know Debbie D's kind of like I guess the quote unquote queen of B-list because she's in so many B-list movies. I think she does I forget what they're called, like the tapes that people like recommend them do. You know, people do. She's in those a lot, right?
Well, if you want me to be honest, I'll be honest.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. I've had a learning experience with people like that. I met Debbie D on the horror convention circuit. She was actually next to the Darian Kane table. Darian Kane helped me in my early days.
Okay.
You know, actually, she's the person I referenced before who told me that I should make a feature-length movie. You know, because until that point, I thought that I was just some clown making skits, and that's all I'll ever be. I was more interested in being a magazine publisher than you know, making movies. And I didn't really think that people would find my stuff entertaining enough to actually justify putting time into it, you know, the serious time into it. But anyway, Debbie D was very charming in person, and as we got to talking, she said that she would be in the movie. I forgot what her first appearance was, but I made this comment about fake boobs,
Yeah.
not knowing that she has fake boobs.
You didn't know? Wait.
I never saw her topless.
I was going to say, has she been topless yet? Because they're kind of cross-eyed.
So her boobs were so cross-eyed that every time I filmed her, I had her wear a half bra where you couldn't tell that they were fake. You know, because I don't know how you feel, but I don't like fake boobs.
No,
and
terrible.
if I'm making a damsel in distress kind of a situation on camera, I know that men probably find it very hard to believe that a girl who's had a boob job would be embarrassed about being naked, because, you know, there's a whole degradation factor to those scenes, you know, humiliation.
Right.
If I had a penile implant, I'd be walking around the street like, oh, I didn't know my pants were down, and let me put them back up. You know,
Get this thundercock.
You know, I would be embarrassed to be naked with a sizable reconstruction. But anyway, I also didn't know that although she was charming in person, her acting was, to put it the best way possible, comical.
Right.
You know, it's great for a comedy.
Or a cheesy sci-fi movie.
Well, I'm trying to keep this very lighthearted, but in the early days it didn't really matter because I was shooting on camcorder.
Right.
Back then I didn't know what 24 frames per second was. I didn't know that that's the magical cinematic motion. That's what makes movies look like movies, and that's what makes camcorders look like news broadcasts or whatever.
Right.
You know, all these directors at the time were saying like, oh, if you do this to the color, if you light it this way, it'll look like film. No. The primary thing is the cinematic motion, the 24 frames per second opposed to the 30, and also the depth of field, which I guess might be too much of a technical chat. Getting back to Debbie D, it was sad discovering, you know, the fake boobs. As long as a person's nice, I will work with that person. So the niceness ended when I asked Debbie D to play a mother.
Right.
And she flipped out.
Really?
She said, well, how old is the girl? Because no one's going to believe I get carded for cigarettes. I better wear a wig with gray hair. And she has a problem. She doesn't realize that she looks her age. I guess in her mind she thinks that she could be playing the teenage roles or the young lass roles. She doesn't see herself as old, and I didn't know that was a sensitive spot, so she flipped out completely.
But I mean, it's not like she looks old. I mean, she looks her age. I mean, she looks good for her age. I mean, it's not like she's, you know, the chick from Titanic, you know, you know, I mean, she's not ugly or old. I mean, but yeah, I could see her as a younger mom.
No, I thought she was curvy, and toward the end of working with her, I knew that her acting was just bad. I think I even got rid of her speaking parts, but whatever. You know, once there's an outburst like that, I was thinking, all right, I hired you when, you were a joke and people were asking me, why am I working with that idiot? So, that was my goodbye, all right. And then Carrie Taylor was another person who, if I may begin with a compliment, I think that she has incredibly shapely legs, but she's another person who has fake boobs. So same thing with her. If you've noticed in the later movies that had her in them, I hid half of her breasts, with a half bra or something, so you couldn't see that they were fake.
Right.
But she was very much hated by other models. She's not an actress, she's a model.
Right.
And, for the damsel in distress stuff, I wasn't doing it for drama. I was doing it more for the perverts to buy those movies so I could fund the comedies. Where am I going with the Carrie story? Other directors hated her too. And so when someone's hated, I always support the underdog. So I made it a point to hire her when other people didn't. But, models would flat out tell me if she's in the room, they don't want to be there. They don't want to work with her. They'll be in the same movie, but they don't want to work with her.
Why?
So I don't know what she did, but she was also a big gossip hound.
Yeah, she kind of looked like she might be.
So I still haven't figured out if any part of that is malicious, but some people just really love to gossip.
Yeah.
But that's dangerous when you don't care if the gossip is based on reality. If you like gossip because of its juiciness, then that's a problem, and it seems that she uses that variety. But I still don't know if it was malicious, but it was another case of biting the hand that feeds you.
Right.
Like I was working with someone who had a bad reputation, and I was happy to be supporting someone who's shunned by others, and so that ended.
Right.
But a big secret, you mentioned my movie Crucifier.
Right.
Which is not a good movie. When I have movies taken out of production or out of circulation, it's either because the movie was made as an experiment and I found out what I wanted to find out, or maybe it was a mistake putting the movie out, and Crucifier was that category. It was a mistake putting that out. But anyway, it was during a time when I didn't really have a lot of horror knowledge or horror experience, but I had this idea for the movie, and I wanted Carrie Taylor to play the lead, but I knew how bad her acting was. So to compensate for it, it was the equivalent of putting a bra on a fake, or a half bra on a fake boob.
Right.
I had to wear a mask the entire movie. So you couldn't see the bad acting, you just saw the shapely legs and whatever.
And that's why you're a very talented director.
But by the way, you are the only person I've ever revealed that. Even in the King of the B movies, I didn't talk about that.
Yes, we got a PSYCOW.
I've never told anyone that other than Rocco Martone, who played her co-star.
Right, and that he runs Dingbats, correct?
No, he drinks beer there, but he...
Oh, okay.
He doesn't run it.
I like that we have a PSYCOW exclusive of Beelzebub. That's about Carrie Taylor.
So again, that stuff is not that I said about Debbie D or Carrie. That's just truth.
Right.
I never said it to anybody because no one ever asked about those people. But that's the story. I protected them for all that time in the past, but if they're going to be nasty, screw them.
Right.
I never screwed them, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the number one question I get asked. I don't have sex with the girls in my movies.
Is it because, I guess, aren't a couple of them like porn stars and models and that kind of thing? I guess they just assume that you do that? Because I think, I can't remember her name. I couldn't even tell you how to pronounce it.
Gina Lynn?
Right, yeah. Isn't she a porn star?
Yes.
Yeah. Shit, I mean, I could see that.
Well, it's funny with Gina Lynn because in person, it's not just me. She has an effect on every guy who encountered her that day. She has these eyes, your IQ drops 20 points and all you want to do is procreate.
Right.
But the thing is, in the beginning, I've seen people, ugly guys who make movies, who only get action with,
right.
how do I say it? Do I need to explain?
No.
I never wanted to be that, but also, I actually tell people who've never worked with me before, I give them sort of a sexual harassment speech. The girls can flirt with you, but you can't flirt back.
Right.
Because when they're flirting with you, they don't mean it. It's almost like going to a go-go bar and believing like, oh, she loves my hair.
Yeah. Here's $1 billion.
They're just trying to make the work environment friendly and fun, but that flirtation isn't meant. But I have found out that models, there are some models who have drug problems or mental illness, and I haven't experienced it personally, but there's something wrong with that. As a director or producer, I'm the boss, and for me to use that to get anywhere with a girl, it's just stupid.
Right.
It's pathetic. However, when I get older and uglier, I will be doing that.
Yeah, the back.
Now, I just don't want that to be said about me now. But later, I do plan to make use of that.
That is beautiful.
Well, there's the future plan, Phil.
But I would never want that said about me these days.
Right. 60-year-old Bill.
I don't plan to live that long, but
that's what I keep saying too. Me either.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I have another question, but you can go ahead and go with what you're going with.
No, the one thing you must understand about me is that I open the stream of consciousness and I talk a lot, but I don't really say anything. So you have to stop me when I talk too much, or you have to orient me back to what the subject is.
You and I have a lot in common. I can't shut my mouth.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you do a lot of conventions. Is there any conventions you always look forward to every year?
Yes, Cinema Wasteland in Ohio, cinemawasteland.com. Actually, next year, 2013, that's the only convention that I plan to attend.
Well, then I'm going to come up and see you.
Yes, I might do one in New Jersey, but only because a friend of mine who's a director, Mike O'Mahony, he did, what the hell? Sloppy the Psychotic. He and I have a lot of fun. He's also in my new movie, Jesus, the Daughter of God. But
right.
I didn't really mean that as a plug. It's just that convention, we're not going for any other reason than to make fun of the flea market people who go there. It's not a convention, it's a flea market. So,
well, isn't that kind of like, I met you at the North Carolina, the Rutger Hauer's, what was it, Mad Monster Party?
Yeah.
What a joke that, I felt so ripped off when I got in there. I was like, this is ridiculous.
Really?
I couldn't stand it. I hated it. I don't know. But it was smaller than I thought it was going to be, I guess. I'm used to going to the larger ones. I've been to the one in Atlanta, and I guess, bigger town, I guess, I don't know. But yeah, I was, I got a picture with you. That was the highlight of the day.
I'm just happy that they played Antfarm Dickhole. They actually were looking at several movies, and we're having trouble figuring out which one, which is the opposite of some conventions that will never play my movie,
right?
Like the one in New Jersey. Mike Mahoney and I, we were trying to get thrown out. We were vending, and we were telling people, sorry, your T-shirt's too gay to buy a movie from us.
You gave me
or
a copy, so I must have looked pretty badass.
yeah. Well, I actually had fun at Mad Monster Party, and I was worried about North Carolina because I'd heard such horror stories about the Bible Belt.
Yeah, it's
So I do have balls, like not knowing what I was in for. I've gone to Texas, I've gone to North Carolina, I've gone to Kentucky with movies called Jesus the Total Douchebag.
right.
You know.
And you made it out alive.
Yeah, I had a great time, and I think that the viewing for Antfarm Dickhole was one of the loudest ever.
I wanted to go so bad, but a friend that I was with at the time, he couldn't stay that late. I thought so. You gave me a copy, and we came home and watched it. And he's not a fan of horror movies. He's like, "What the fuck are we watching?" He doesn't understand the difference between a mainstream horror movie and someone that's just making whatever the hell they want to make.
True. I have seen. I guess people are. What is the word? I don't want to say spoiled, but in my history, when I saw John Waters' Desperate Living, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
Oh yeah, John Waters is a favorite of mine.
One of the best.
But I couldn't believe how good the movie was, and I didn't know what low budget meant. I didn't know anything about that. I just loved the flavor of the low budget. My budget is significantly lower, by the way.
Right.
But I didn't have to be taught to love low budget. The sitcom, The Young Ones, the British sitcom, cheesy as hell.
Right.
But I loved it. So I love cheesiness. But most people don't. I've tried to turn people on to Desperate Living or The Young Ones, and they yawn. And it's beyond me. And it doesn't mean that people are stupid. It's just that, humans are diverse. There are some people who are very good at just taking orders and not thinking, and they're unemployable and they join the army. And
right.
No, I'm just kidding. but you and I, we have different skill sets, and as a population, some people have to not be able to like these movies because they're the ones who actually get other important things done. Right. They're the ones who will go, on girders, steel workers and stuff like that. So, there's nothing wrong with those people. It's just the people who go out and try to ruin things for me or other independent filmmakers. Those are the assholes. But if you don't like the movie, that doesn't make you an asshole. It's just if you try to destroy me, then you're an asshole.
Well, do you like interviewing musicians on metal retardation, or do you like making films more?
I like it all. I'm just happy that I don't have one type of outlet for the creativity.
Right.
The interviewing with the band, that's remnants of my magazine. I'm actually going to be making a movie called Fanzine Editor. The reason why I haven't really done it before is I didn't think that anybody would really want to watch it, and it's going to take a lot of effort to put that movie together. And so I always have to weigh decisions like, can I spend that much time working on something for nothing? Because I do actually have to eat. Right. Otherwise I won't be fat. And and then no one will recognize me. So anyway, the interviewing with the bands, usually it's a lot of fun. And sometimes it's just meeting old friends, and other times it's having fun. In the magazine, readers could only imagine what it was like interviewing with a band. And sometimes people got mad because they invented the situation in their heads. They didn't realize, that it was all sarcastic. But when you see it, it should be obvious, although it isn't, believe it or not. I just realized that that's not true. They're just people who are dense, and I guess that's a kind of stupidity.
They take things as things are. They don't really think into it.
But it's so obvious, to me. Like when I ask a question, there's a band Tyr from the Faroe Islands, and I made some kind of joke question about I didn't realize that Egyptian kings, came from there. Or they buried there too. The Faroe Islands. Get it?
Right.
Faroe, Egypt. And so on YouTube, the reason why I disallow comments unless, they're personally approved is because there are a lot of stupid people out there, and I couldn't believe the amount of people who corrected it, like, no, Pharaoh is spelled,
Yeah.
Oh my god.
like, that wasn't a real question. How could you? It says mental retardation. How could you think that any of that is serious? But metal. I forgot that, because I'm a certain metalhead, and I only associate with other kinds of metalheads who, we may not like the same bands, but we basically have the same understanding.
Right.
There are dumb metalheads. There's a dumb metalhead stereotype. There's the rebel, antisocial metalhead. There's the poser, Motley Crue is metal, which it isn't.
That's hair band.
In the movie Metalheads, I made the comment that the only time that the word baby should appear in a metal song is when it's about killing babies.
I was about to say when you're killing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like I love you, baby.
When you get flung into a giant woman's vagina and you shoot it with a laser gun.
But I don't know if you had a follow-up question to the metal interviews. I do enjoy interviewing those bands, and I think you had emailed me or someone. I did an email interview today with someone who actually asked me if I made the black metal documentary totally contrary to all the expectations. I actually showed black metal people laughing.
Right.
I don't know if you are a fan of that type of music or not.
I'm a metalhead, and I like I guess I like black metal to a certain extent, but I guess my generation. I guess I'm more into the newer metal with the screamo kind of, not screamo, but the screaming and the heavy lyrics and shit like that. Like so I don't know if you know Suicide Silence and that kind of thing. The real heavy. I guess they call it grindcore now. I don't. Titles are ridiculous, but I'm into every kind of metal.
Titles are not ridiculous. I am king.
That's true.
That was beautiful.
Well, to sum that up, there are documentaries that continue to perpetuate the sensationalistic aspect of the black metal. There's one documentary, Headbanger's Journey. I think it was also played on TV. But there's a guy, Gall, who was interviewed, and his face was underlit, almost like a kid playing with a flashlight.
Right.
And he's drinking wine and being very serious. And he was asked a question, and he just took time and then just said, Satan.
Yep, Satan.
Yep. Remember that scene?
Yeah.
All right, so he was evil in that documentary. In my documentary, he came out of the closet. So,
Stacy,
so that's the
you have some questions. I keep talking over you. I apologize. You want to ask some questions?
No, you're completely fine. It's totally okay. I was going to ask, the ideas behind the movies, I'm going back to the movies, are pretty crazily amazing. Like, the ideas you have are something like my brain cannot put together. What triggers some of those ideas?
I don't know if I've ever revealed before, but in the early days, I think my first 7 movies were shot on camcorder, believe it or not.
Right.
Back then, it was a lot of money. It was $900 for a camcorder. Why would you spend so much? I don't know. Because I never looked at myself as a professional.
To me, it was just a hobby that paid, and I had no idea why I still had distribution. Good reviews were few and far between. But anyway, there's a rule of business: don't put all your eggs in one basket. And so I was looking at other distributors, and they were all telling me that if I wanted to get my movies into video stores, the people who decide yes or no, the acquisitions people, they hate independent movies, and they assume that they're crap. So within the first 10 minutes, you have to show them blood or boobs, but preferably both. And then, I don't want to say the name of the company, but there's a company that puts out movies, I guess, for middle-aged men. They're not allowed to bring porn home, so they bring these,
Right.
these types of movies. When they go to horror conventions, they could bring these movies home, and, these movies are tolerated. But it seemed that, the story was secondary. The story was just there to back up, a girl stripping for 5 minutes, with the transitions from scene to scene all being fade. Like, ooh, I'm taking my bra off, and let me fade to me lying down, taking my underwear off, but you'll never see my pee-pee. But so I made fun of that in all of my comedies. I had speed bumps to the plot. That's what I call them, of girls for no reason taking their clothes off or dancing for 5 minutes long.
Prime
And
example would be the worst horror movie, the remake. I think it was actually Carrie Taylor towards the end. She was the vampire. You come up from eating her out, and you have blood all over your face. And then she comes over and finishes the job because she's a vampire and she loves blood. It was like a 5-minute, just like girl on girl makeout scene. I was like, this is so fucking random.
Yeah, well, I must admit that I like nudity. I know it's unusual.
Yeah, so unusual for a male to love, naked girls making out with each other.
But getting back to an earlier point, from going around the country and talking to the independent people, they keep trying to get girls to be naked or, scantily clad for free. And I never had that attitude even when I was making my practice movie. And then Lloyd Kaufman, do you know who he is?
I saw the
Oh,
interview.
yeah.
I saw the interview with him.
On YouTube?
Right, where you two were kind of, not really butting heads, but I mean, he has a very different viewpoint of what he does, and I don't know, he seems kind of like high and mighty in the B-list world.
Well, I have never read or seen his, advice, instructional series on how to make your own movie, but I've been told that there's a section on how to get girls to be naked for free. And advice like shoot the nude scenes first because, they might have cold feet or whatever. I don't know if that's true, but the reason why I was so belligerent in that, it was a horror convention that had me as a guest, and when I arrived, they told me I was to do a panel, and I don't like public speaking, believe it or not.
Right.
And so before the panel, I drank as much scotch as I could. So that explains why for most of that panel I was retarded. It took me forever
fuck
to
you,
say
Lloyd
something.
Kaufman.
But there were two reasons for the belligerence. Aside from the alcohol, the guy in the middle the night before introduced himself to me. I still don't know who he is or what kind of movies he's done, but all he did was badmouth Trauma and badmouth Lloyd. And then on the panel, he's kissing his ass. And I was thinking, that's not how you do it.
Yeah.
This is how you do it. But the other thing is, I didn't want the panel to become a Trauma commercial, because every question ended up being like a Trauma answer. And then I know some girls who really should have been paid and weren't, but it's their own fault, Yeah. No one forced them to make the movie, but they believed in the whole, this is a great stepping stone. I'll be naked in the movie for free and I'll get discovered. So I made fun of that on the panel, but of course I was drunk and I really should have just not gone on the panel. Something like that is not a good surprise to spring on a person who just traveled 10 hours to get there.
Right.
But I apologize to Lloyd about my behavior, and I think segments of that are on King of the Bee movies. But
Is that out yet? I can't find that anywhere either.
After this interview, just give me an address with movies that you have, and I'll send you a care package.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. But what was actually the original question? Because I feel like I went on this big meandering path and totally avoided what you were asking.
I don't even remember.
Either.
Well, I think it had to do with paying girls, because it actually sometimes gets me mad. You know, like guys getting, you know, crack whores or, you know, really. You get what you pay for, or you get what you don't pay for, I guess. But, you know, I'm always asked, how do you get girls to be in the movies? And I stopped answering, because the answer is simple. I pay them.
Right. Money talks.
You know, of course, there are girls who see the script and say, no fucking way. You know, but then there are others who, you know, they understand what the scene is or whatever. But, you know, it's no surprise. People never come on set and, you know, they're expecting to be reading a book in the library. And I'm like, no. I want you tied spread eagle to this bed. It's really essential to the plot. Well, you know, they know. I never, you know, make this scene seem more or less than what it is. You know, I'm very honest about that. It's not hard to get people to be in your movie. You just have to pay them and treat them right.
Right.
You know, but if you go around asking people to do stuff for free, of course you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah. Well, you talked about, well, I like talking about the movies. I know we've talked about everything else. What's your, why do you do the crosses so much with the girls tied to cross? I don't think you do it so much anymore, but I know in the first half of your movies, you always have the girls on the crosses. What, is there something like that you just dig about tying up girls on crosses?
In the early days, some fan sent me a link to a site, crucifiedwomen.com. It's crucified-women.com. It's a guy from Belgium. He's had problems, and I think he resurrected the site a couple of days ago. But the reason why I was interested in contacting him is he had some art. I guess it was done in Poser, a 3D program.
Right.
And I wanted to get permission to use that for DVD cover. I ended up not doing that because it would make the DVDs look like they're good. I just have to do a little aside here. My distributor lets me design my movies because I need for the movies to look like independent movies.
Right.
I don't fool the consumer. You know, like, how many times have you bought a movie, you're expecting Hollywood quality, and you get my quality?
Oh, man. Well, Netflix is like, the horror scene on Netflix is like 85% B-list movies, which I'm all for, but if you have like a badass cover, I'm like, oh, that's cool, and then I watch, I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Has nothing to do with it.
And and like I said, I love B-list movies, and I would not mind watching it, but you gotta tell me ahead of time I'm going into something like a gigantic squid monster or some shit like that.
Yeah, I don't fool people. I would be making so much more money. As a matter of fact, other distributors told me that the first thing that they would do is, you know, they would have deceptive packaging.
Right.
They don't put it that way, but that's exactly it. They would have deceptive packaging, and you know, I never got into this for money anyway. But I totally forgot my original question.
Well, let's go. Let's move on. That's fine. How real? I know.
No! I'm gonna remember because I had a point. Okay. I was gonna give you an exclusive revelation.
Oh, let's do it then.
All right, let's pretend we have Alzheimer's. What the hell were we doing 5 minutes ago? All right. So why was I talking about packaging? I said this is an aside, and it became the topic.
Hold on a second. We asked, what did we ask? Shit. I don't even remember. Yeah, we go all, that's how we are though. We go all over the place too. Shit.
It's terrible having problems.
Was that it?
It's the crosses. I asked you about
what? Oh, the crosses. Okay, all right. So crucifiedwomen.com.
Yes.
Sorry about that. So the guy had lots and lots of galleries of crucified women, and so for my first ever, I guess, exploitation, sex horror, Kill the Scream Queen, which you should not watch. It's terrible.
I watched it today. I've seen it 3
Oh!
Too.
I've seen it 3 times, Bill.
Seen that one too.
You have no idea how embarrassed I am. I should have never been in that movie. I'm great at playing an idiot, but I'm not good at playing anything serious, because I'm not an actor. I'm a great idiot.
I gotta say, the Viking helmet would not scare me. I'd be like, what the fuck are you wearing?
The movie was just stupid, but anyway, I asked permission to, I guess, print those pictures, onto glossy paper to make it look like photographs.
Right.
And they were used in some scene in Kill the Scream Queen.
Right.
And then the guy started getting video submissions from the photographers who took those pictures. I personally filmed some girls in the forest. It looks like a forest, but it's actually a state park. And it's really funny because this one time a girl was tied naked to the... It wasn't a cross. It was, a branch tied to a tree to make the tree the crucifix.
Right.
But I didn't really think, I should have bought a blanket or something, to hide her in case, there's an interloper. So this guy starts jogging, and so I tell her, like, shh, hide. she, of course, can't hide because she's, tied to this cross.
That's when you just look at him and you go, what's up?
I should have just filmed that whole thing because, everyone's just frozen, just watching this jogger, and the jogger is so into his music, he's just like, do-do-do-do-do, and jogged without noticing any of us, And then that same park, getting back to Carrie Taylor, she was topless, and of all the times of me going to that park, they had some kind of fake military training, and I didn't know that they were high school kids because they're from a distance. So anyway, two guys kept coming by us in their camouflage, not high school kids, but young guys, but definitely over 18.
Right.
And Carrie was very angry about that. It's kind of weird to picture that, a girl who's topless in a movie not liking anyone peeping on her.
Right.
The two things are it's two different atmospheres, I guess. Cause when I'm filming, it's
comfortable.
Yeah, because filming somebody is not the same as peeping on somebody. So I could understand, but she got so distressed that for the first time ever in dealing with an interloper, I did it the tough guy way. And they called the police saying that we're shooting porn in front of minors. And so there were maybe 300 police who came to arrest.
Oh my god.
And at first I was thinking, what the hell? And then I was thinking, if I were a cop and I heard porn, I would say yes, I'll be right there, even though I'm in China or whatever. Anyway, it turned out that I know enough cops, and I have so many PBA cards that it's like a playing deck.
Right.
And it's so obvious that it was just like a spiteful thing that, we were not shooting porn or anything like that. If the sergeant who came onto the scene were a dick, everything would have been confiscated. We'd all be in jail. But he just gave her a ticket, which I paid, because I didn't know that in that state park it's illegal even to be in a bathing suit sunbathing.
Oh, wow.
So he said it's not a criminal ticket. It's just, as if you're not wearing a seatbelt. And so I paid for it. And that scene is an ass monster where she's topless and she goes, oh, someone's here.
Right.
That's the arrest fiasco. That's real life. so that's a revelation too. I never told anybody that.
I like it. We're getting so many exclusives.
I know, this is amazing.
But the crucifixion thing, it was just a matter of I had access to people who were shooting things like that. Because generally, I never tie anybody up in real life.
Right.
People look like they're tied up. The only exception ever was in the woods, the girl on the cross.
Right.
But she wasn't suspended from the cross or anything like that. The crucifixion footage where girls are actually, tied and, suspended on these crosses, that's not me. I never filmed any of that. That's just, I was allowed to use that footage. I think most of it was by a Russian photographer who actually died. But I stopped using it at the time. As a kid, hearing about crucifixion, I always wondered, if you go to Catholic school, you only think that Jesus and two other guys were ever crucified. But the reality is, that was actually a form of execution. It didn't really look like that. But I remember being in kindergarten, constantly looking at this cross. Back in kindergarten, we didn't really learn, the fine points of religion. But when I was looking at Jesus on a cross, I thought it was a guy who had just gone out of a shower. Because I thought that was no, seriously, I thought it was a shower towel around him. I didn't know that was death. So, so halfway through kindergarten, I guess the cross was taken down to be cleaned or whatever, because, it's at the top of the wall.
Right.
And I looked, and there were nails going through his hands and feet. And I asked the kindergarten teacher, why did they nail that in instead of just gluing it? Because I thought it was like an arts and crafts thing. Like, instead of having a square, you just cut out the other pieces, leaving a cross. I didn't know that it was like a guy hanging on a cross. So I was absolutely horrified by that. That fucked me up. I didn't know who Jesus was. I thought it was just a guy coming out of a shower. Now I know he's like, somebody nailed him. That was terrible. So
That's awesome.
So then, when I was in my teens and I learned that, you're really not on some high hilltop, you're pretty much ground level, like your feet are on the ground or whatever.
Right.
You're not really up in the air. It's meant for you to be abused by passerbyers. And so I was wondering, what if you're a condemned hot girl?
Yeah. That's the title of the movie, Condemned Hot Girl.
Yeah, Condemned Hot Girl.
I like it.
So, whatever. I don't use that anymore because there's really no reason. Just like I don't have, the sudden break of 5 minutes of a girl dancing. Although, in Jesus, the Daughter of God, my upcoming movie, I have a nod to a friend who died, Terry Lofton. He's the director of Nail Gun Massacre.
Uh-huh.
He had asked me, why did I never have girls as villains or girls who kick ass or whatever? And I explained to him that in my movie Night of the Pumpkin. Is that one of the movies you've seen, or
yes,
do I have to send it to you?
I've seen it. I don't own it, but I've seen it.
All right. So one of the things in that movie...
Actually, the only one I own is Antfarm Dickhole that you gave me. I've rented them.
Okay. Well, in Night of the Pumpkin, I wanted to have a female lead who would triumph as a woman, not as a man. Because if you see movies like Resident Evil or whatever,
yeah,
the female leads win by being masculine. They swear, they have a swagger,
right,
they fight. They don't accomplish things the way a woman would. And I'm not saying that in a secondary way. Women are powerful in their own spirit. So that's why in Night of the Pumpkin, the female lead behaved the way she did.
Right.
A man would have a problem appearing weaker unless he's Eastern. Some of the Japanese martial arts. Your opponent is made to think that you're weak. It's like, well, I don't really want to get into that because it's not a conversation about martial arts. It's about powerful women.
Right.
So, that's one of the subtle things, love it or hate it. That was, I think, the first time that ever happened in a movie. I just wish I had a better budget and, people who actually know what they're doing.
Right.
I'm not saying that about anybody involved in the movie, as a bad thing.
It was new
a bigger budget in a bigger budget movie, you have a team
Right.
that helps make the movie be the best it possibly can. So I don't have that team, and the ideas I had for Night of the Pumpkin, I really could use a team like that. Maybe that's one of the movies I'll revisit. Just like I have a serious version of Zombie Christ. But anyway, I was trying to explain to Terry Lofton that it's irresponsible, to have like a rape revenge movie, because that's not reality.
Right.
Rapists or serial killers or sexual sadists, it's unlikely that once you get in their grips that you're going to escape, let alone kick their ass,
Right.
And again, it's just stupid. It's more for like a simple-minded viewer. I don't want to do that. And anyway, for Terry, because Jesus, the Daughter of God is a comedy, all of the girls in the movie kick serious ass.
Right.
They know how to fight better than their male counterparts. And that's just my respect, my final respect to him, that I did something that he had criticized about my movies, because I always said it's unrealistic. But hey, if the movie itself is unrealistic, why not have unrealistic parts? At least for a friend like that.
Well, let's touch on one last topic. If you
No.
don't. I can talk all night.
Go ahead.
I have like 17 more questions, but I'm trying to tone it down because I know you've been on for an hour. I know you probably get asked all the time about the Sandman movie. Did you not get asked about that movie?
What was that?
Do you get asked about that movie a lot? Because it seems like you would.
Yeah, the funny thing is when this year I try to go to as many horror conventions as possible, and everywhere I went I got recognized, but primarily from Sandman rather than my own stuff.
Right.
Which is kind of funny because I've always said that I can only win if I lose at the same time. So I got recognized, but none of the people who liked my character ever bothered buying any of my movies.
Right. Well, I can't find it anywhere, and I never get conventions.
Oh.
I live in South Carolina, and it's
okay.
I'm in the middle of
South Carolina. All right, so
I'm in the middle of hell. I want to move away so bad, and so the only convention that really comes my way that I can actually make it to is that one in Charlotte, and I'm not going there again.
Wow.
But with Sandman,
okay.
How real was that movie? Because I know your interviews, and I know the interviews he went through with people, but I know that Eric, well, his last name's not even Rost, I don't think, but how real was that? Because it just seemed like it was real staged to me.
Speaking on behalf of Fred from Toe Tag and me, when we were interviewed, we were giving genuine answers.
Right.
The only difference is that I didn't know that J.T. Petty was a real director. I thought he and his crew were just college kids. Right. I grant interviews to anyone, as you know yourself. No,
yeah. No, it's amazing what you say you're a college kid.
So anyway, I didn't really take the interview seriously. I don't mean that I was. How can I put this? If I had known that he was a real director, I might have tried to be more mature. And I'm glad that I was the idiot. That was the comic relief in the in the documentary. They saw how much I love beer, and they also saw that I don't drink to be mature.
Right.
I drink to be as retarded as possible. So they kept feeding me beer, and I was interviewed actually on 3 separate occasions, and I was asked a lot of questions, and the editing is the fake part, but the answers were real. And some of the fake parts were, I actually had heat exhaustion, because it was during the filming of Kill the Scream Queen, which you should never watch, by the way. And I learned that you should turn off air conditioning. That was the first movie. That's going back really far, because that's when I first learned, like, oh, you can't have air conditioning noise.
Right.
So I filmed on the hottest day in summer and turned off the air conditioning. I didn't realize that what people do is between takes, they turn the AC back on. And so I had heat exhaustion, and it made it look like I was drunk, you know.
Right.
That I stumbled because I was drunk.
That was the scene with Carrie?
Yeah, and then Carrie is just a person who gets bored extremely easily. You know, she can ask you, "Excuse me, how do I get to the movie theater?" And while you're talking to her, she'll be bored and in another world. So you actually have to drive her to the theater.
Right.
Like, the attention span is really low. So anyway, her expressions, to be fair, who knows what's going on in her head, but they cleverly put her facial expressions to aid whatever the scene needed in Sandman, but not what was actually happening in reality. And
making you
the other thing,
know what you're doing.
Yeah, and the thing is, at that time, I had only heard of toe tag. I've never met them. I've never seen a toe tag movie. And I was making a really bad effect on Carrie's back. And as a joke, I said, toe tag, eat your heart out, or August on the ground, eat your heart out.
Right.
And I thought it was pretty obvious that that it was a joke, but it was cut in such a way as to make it an insult against him. So when I actually met Fred for the first time, I said, like, look, let's get this out of the way right away. I was not insulting you.
Yeah.
You know, and so we become good friends, and actually Toe Tag sells my movies on their site.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
Yeah.
He's going to be one of our guests in the future.
Yeah, those are all great people. And when you were talking about the underground, I did some interview today. I'm sorry you're not special. You're not the only interview today. But I was talking about there's not really an underground scene or a cohesive scene. But the thing is, you know, when I mentioned Mike Mahoney, who's in Philadelphia, director in Philadelphia, and we're splitting a table, Toe Tag, we make movies. We don't encroach on each other's territories. We're unique. You know, I would never make a movie the way Toe Tag makes. They would never make a movie the way I make it. Although I've talked to Jeremy Cruz from Toe Tag about maybe collaborating, you know, having their sick, hyper-realistic gore with my bizarre, demented, you know, it would be a sex horror, obviously.
Right.
But, you know, combining the two, what we could come up with. But that's just in the works. There's nothing concrete yet. That's just in the cloud. Just this big cloud of ideas.
Again, you're really right about the way they edited the film, and editing is everything, because in that movie, there was the one scene where you were asked, I believe you were asked about or shown the August Underground mortem where I think her name's Krusty. She cut herself, and then they made it look like you copied it.
Yeah.
And, yeah, they sent like you know the
yeah, yep.
Yeah. What movie was that? Into Thy Hands? Is that what the movie was? That where you were crossing off like Mary Magdalene, and was that one?
If I remember, before Kill a Scream Queen, when I was still shooting on camcorder, I was making Jesus Christ Serial Rapist.
Right.
And after 3 scenes, the guy playing the villain was actually the Nazi cop. I don't know if you ever saw Stereotypes Don't Just Disappear in Thin Air. But I had a recurring character. Whenever there was a cop in the movie, it was a guy in a Nazi costume.
Right.
So it was this guy, and so I didn't know that I was breaking all of the rules of horror, but in a bad way. Right. You know, not on purpose to be cool or introducing something new. Like, the acting was terrible. It was shot on camcorder. The lighting was terrible. Everything was bad about it. So that was another mistake I had, where I was convinced to release it. So there is an earlier Jesus Christ Serial Rapist that was released with a gaudy cover.
Right.
Debbie D was on the cover.
Oh no.
But I was very, very quick to put that out of print, because I was told it would only be available in adult stores, that it would be a bondage movie. It wouldn't really be, because it's not a movie. Only 3 scenes were shot. Everything else was just, you know, like TNA, and
right.
had no rhyme or reason to it. It was terrible. Fuck. But anyway, when I remade Jesus Christ Serial Rapist because I like the idea of it, like the schizophrenic having a delusion of grandeur. Usually a delusion isn't grand. I was a counselor for schizophrenics, and one of my clients, his delusion was actually that he was a script writer.
Wow.
Yeah. So, thing is, I was told, don't confront people on their delusions.
Right.
There's no medication. You can take medication for this or that, but there's no medicine that will release you from a delusion. But just me asking him, rather than, confronting him with evidence to the contrary, because it's almost like telling you, you're not on the phone with me right now, you're in a refrigerator.
Right.
You're like, what the fuck? I'm not in a refrigerator. But it is cold.
Yeah.
So he had no idea what a 3-act structure is or anything like that. So anyway, I thought, like, all right, what if this guy thinks he's Jesus, but because he doesn't know anything about religion, he sees people around him reborn, the people who fucked him over.
Right.
He knows, like, someone betrayed Jesus in the story. So instead of, like, killing the people, he's going to rape their girlfriends.
Right.
So that's why there was that tagline, first he nails you, then he nails you.
Right.
Funny thing is, I might make a comedic version of that because everyone who ever bought it, despite reading the synopsis that says this is not a comedy,
Yeah.
Expects a comedy and sees that. That's, I guess, the closest to a David Lynch movie. Not that, I'm a big David Lynch fan, but it's just an odd movie. It's nightmarish. There's no dialogue. But I thought, in that movie, what if I actually cut myself with a razor?
Right.
And that was done without me ever seeing toe tag or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess Sandman kind of made it look like things happened that didn't happen.
Did you get in trouble for using the dolls that you did in the Dalla Morte?
You mean the ones with functioning orifices?
Right. Yeah. I was
No, just
you took time to make some vaginas.
No, I didn't get into any trouble. The funny thing is, I took that out of circulation even before they were sold out, and I just went to this concert in Philly, and I gave out the rest, just keeping some for myself.
Right.
Because most people who told me about their reactions to the movie said that it sucked. They had no idea what the fuck the story was, even though I had sort of like cliff notes at the end.
Right.
Nobody could make rhyme. Nobody could understand what the hell I did. So I was thinking, it would be pretty stupid of me to continue selling it when everybody who's ever told me about it hates it.
Right.
And then once it's out of print, everyone's like,
where'd it go?
Or people tell me how much they love it and how they watch it as a yearly tradition, and like, what? So this one guy, Wild Eye for the Straight Eye, and that's what I call his company. I let him release it, and I was thinking, why did I even do that? That's a movie that should have just died,
Right.
But as far as trouble, I think you're asking me about, like, the toys or whatever.
Right, I didn't know if the trademark infringing or anything like that, because, you did modify them, so, really, technically you're not. I know Gene Simmons was in there somewhere, so I'm surprised Gene didn't jump on that shit.
Well, none of the things in there were representative
Right.
of what they're like. There could have been a Barbie doll, but she wasn't like orgasm-giving Barbie. She was
the best Barbie of all.
And I think the band. I think I repainted the Kiss dolls to have different kind of makeup where they were all King Diamond.
Like a Dimmu Borgir kind of look to them.
I don't really remember any of that, but I would love to make another doll movie knowing what I know now, but I think that would just be for fun. I don't think it'll actually be a product. But it is kind of funny that, I thought it was just a denial syndrome, like it's out of print so everybody wants it, but there are actually some people who really got a kick out of it, especially vendors at horror conventions who sell toys.
Right.
They liked it. And then there's always it seems that the more socially inept you are, the more you like my movie. or you like the movies that nobody else likes, So I had a lot of that, people who will probably never get married telling me how much they like Dalla Morte. But
Well, on our show, we like to do what we call the PSYCOW 8, where Stacy and I ask you eight questions that we do it every show that pertains to kind of the background of you. And the first one is, what's the scariest movie you've ever seen of all time?
all right, I have to ask something before you start.
Okay.
We'll do a do-over. Is it one of those things where it has to be rapid fire, where I can't even think?
No. It doesn't matter. No, take your time.
All right.
We got all the time in the world.
Avatar, baby.
That's a good answer.
Oh, God.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
I'm always saying that because give me just a minute. I'll try to make this as short as possible. I wanted to make a movie called the cheesiest science fiction movie ever made.
Right.
Where there's spaceships.
Isn't that one of the spaceship movies you have coming out?
Yeah. Well, it's still in the writing phase, but I wanted to have spaceships with strings. Part of me wanted to make it black and white, but I know that would annoy a lot of people.
Right.
So it would be in color, but it would sort of be like the 50s effects, where I would actually try to make them good, but with very limited resources.
Right.
So as I was thinking about science fiction, I was thinking about Star Trek and how Star Trek and some other programs or movies, they always try to have social messages. And then as a joke, I was thinking, like, what if I have an antisocial message? And then as I was thinking about, the apparent social agenda in Hollywood movies, I know that some of your listeners are going to hate me for the things I'm going to say, but there's nothing mean in what I'm going to say, even though it will sound crude and vulgar and hateful. But, putting black people in unrealistic roles, it's easy to buy into that if you don't come from a neighborhood surrounded by a really bad city.
Right.
But it's like putting a spin on people that I don't like, and also certain ethnicities, when they appear in movies, they're Americanized. They still have kind of an accent, but for example, like Orientals, they don't have articles in their language, so they don't say "give me the bike," they just say "give me bike."
Right.
And so having them use American slang that has the articles, it's just ridiculous to me. So in the cheesiest science fiction movie ever made, it begins with a black captain of a ship stranding it somewhere. I play the black captain, by the way. And the spaceship is going to have graffiti on it, and and all the high-ranking people are there because of our protectionist policies. Like things like social promotion, like if you're black and in school, instead of failing you're just passed up the ladder because it's too traumatic for you to be left back, and that's why when you're in 8th grade you can't read. So it's just these stupid political solutions to problems rather than scientific solutions to problems. Science is pretty damn cold, but it's effective. But once government gets involved, I don't know how much I could say. I promise you it'll be a short answer. But anyway, all the uniforms are going to be clown outfits, like really baggy. And so a rebel crew of people who are actually educated, but they didn't get positions because, there's token hiring and all that stuff. Rather than fix the ship situation, they want to fix humanity's situation where they accidentally learn how to time travel. So they're going to go back in time, which is actually going to be our future. So things are going to happen like, one of them gets mugged. I don't know if you've seen the original Star Trek, but sometimes they go back to the present.
Yeah.
So let's say one of them gets mugged by a black guy, and he tells the police, like, the description. He's arrested for a hate crime because you can't accuse black people of a crime. In the tradition of science fiction, over-exaggerating a point, to make the point. So that's just one facet of the the cheesiest science fiction movie ever made.
And you have the Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
No. I actually am going to make a clown movie, and I've been asking people if there's such a thing as a clown genre, just like there's a cannibal genre.
Yeah, I answered that.
Yeah. Oh, you're one of the people who
Right.
chimed in.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really seem like there's a clown genre, but there are clown movies. And I'm just right now making sure that I don't copy anyone.
Right.
But when I make Holocaust Cannibal, I want to make.
Yeah. I wonder where that came from.
Well, it's about, I don't want to make it seem anti-Semitic, so it's probably going to be like an inmate attacking the SS, because it's Holocaust Cannibal, not Cannibal Holocaust.
Right.
But that was on the back burner because to me it was just a one-joke movie that might have been just good as a skit. But then when I was talking to people who were actually part of the Cannibal fandom, they were telling me what's required in a Cannibal movie, and I said to myself, I could actually do this without trying to be funny. Because they require genital mutilation. I'm thinking, like, all right, the SS, they're uncircumcised. They're going to be circumcised. So I don't have to try to make it funny. But that's actually like a back burner thing. The cheesy science fiction movie is something that I really want to do now that, I can make fun of all the things that are going on now. Like the Avatar baby comment, I refer to the movie as in outer space, and I'm saying it the vulgar way on purpose. It's just this love of, there's a term called Orientalism, and I first came across it when I was studying Russian civilization, about how the youth were romanticizing, this group of people. Well, instead of talking about the Orientals in Orientalism, which
Right.
is where it springs, there's the peasants, the youth of Russia, just really exaggerated how cool the peasants were, and these students from wealthy families, they were considered outsiders and assholes. And when they came to the defense of these peasants in villages and stuff like that, they were reported to the police. This is during dark times when you adhere to the social norms, or
Right.
fuck you,
Right.
But the point is, it's dangerous to knock down a group of people, but it's also dangerous to raise them to these unrealistic levels. So Avatar, I was thinking, why on this other planet are people African? And why are they the spiritual, and if it's science fiction, like, right now with all, brain studies, neuroscience, we see why we have, these beliefs, why we stereotype and stuff like that. So we're getting away from spirituality, where I don't want to get too heavy in this conversation, but science less fiction is what Avatar should be, in movies like that. Hollywood
Right.
is science less fiction.
Well, and they're making 2 more of those things. I mean, they're gonna.
Oh!
Yeah, they're gonna keep going with this shit until no one goes.
So I want to have like things like Captain South America and
Right.
a movie like that. Just to show the stupidity. It's really frustrating. I don't really mean to knock down anyone's good time, but as a person, I would really like to watch a movie that doesn't have rap music, that doesn't have like the silly exaltation
Right.
of this or that group of people. Just let me fucking watch a story that has meaning. I don't want to watch a Greek mythology movie that has a black oracle.
Right.
Like, that's disrespectful. If you're making a cultural theme movie, respect the culture. Just because Hollywood has this agenda, I don't know, is racism really that big of a problem that we have to constantly show how bad racism is? And, the new thing that I'm fighting is, it's okay to make fun of rednecks. I don't know if you probably make fun of them because you live around. No,
Oh, I do. I do
Oh,
daily.
But the thing is, it's sanctioned. You can make fun of rednecks, like comedians do it all the time. And they make fun of them for being hateful people, but making fun of them is itself hateful.
Right.
Like there's no like okay way to use hate.
Right.
You know? Hate is bad no matter what. So those are some of the points that I try to tackle. So even though I appear as an idiot, my movies appear idiotic and full of shock value, I do ask you to think. I could be wrong. I've been reminded of certain things. I've been corrected, but at least I'm not afraid to ask questions or to point out stupidity. And if I'm stupid myself, I have no problem having that pointed out too. But that's why I like making these movies, and it seems that after I make a movie, what was the Antfarm Dickhole had nothing really socially shocking, although it's kind of funny that it had the topic of bullying in it.
Right.
And all of a sudden that's in the news everywhere. I didn't do it on purpose for that.
I was going to say it's your fault.
No, I was taking a forensics psychology class, and we just came across bullies for a second, and it was the first time I learned that bullies actually aren't like what your grandma tells you. They're not insecure. They're really secure. It's just that they're assholes. But
right.
Anyway, you have to say "shut up, Bill" if I'm getting too far away.
No, like I said, we love that you talk, because a lot of times you will interview someone and they once we say, "Hey, thanks for coming on for the hour," once the hour's up, we're done. That's game over.
That's it.
So, or it's a lot of work. I've actually interviewed bands the same way. They give one-word answers, and it's really hard. And Dimmu Borgir, I kept wanting to interview Shagrath, the singer.
Right.
But he's not a very bright person, and I think he knows it.
I don't know why that's so funny to me, but it is.
Every time we interview someone tells us about someone that is not too bright. I think the last time we talked to someone, they were harshing on Deborah Messing.
I don't even know who that is.
You're not missing much.
Oh, you do. You secretly do know who it is.
Yeah, you're not missing much. Let's go to the next question.
The racial slurs. Are you going to bleep out my racial slurs? Because you could tell that I don't mean anything bad.
Right. It's making a.
I always say that if you've got nothing to hide, you'll say the word. Like when someone refuses to say the word, I think there's something wrong, or the person's like an ultra-conformist. And one thing that I always say about conformists is like now these days the conformity is political correctness. But those are the same people who would have been Nazis with no problem.
Right.
Like whatever the flavor of the government is at the time, they'll be that flavor. And so those are not to be trusted. Do not trust those people. Yes, men.
Yes.
I do not trust you.
You blew
not
it.
at all.
You blew it over there.
So, as a South Carolina person, if you don't mind me asking you a question.
Oh, go for it.
Are you Christian?
Oh, no. God, no.
All right. Were you ever Christian?
No. As a kid, I was raised in a Presbyterian church, and when I got to the age to where you start thinking for yourself, I was like, this is bullshit. But I'm not really anything. I consider myself religionless. If I believe in anything, it's Batman.
Is that a rare thing in South Carolina?
Oh God, yeah. No, I've been cornered and Bible beaten before several times, and that I'm not even making that shit up. That's a real thing. That's why I gotta get out of the South. A horror movie fan who is not Christian and I have sleeves of tattoos and gauge deers and shit like that. I don't belong here, and I definitely don't fit in. So yeah, I gotta. That's my number one to-do list is to get the fuck out of here.
I asked you about that because when I was in North Carolina, a lot of people prefaced their praise of my movies with, although I'm a Christian, I do find,
Right, they gotta let you know that they don't technically agree with it, but they were entertained.
Yeah, so I was just wondering how oppressive it was. The person I referenced before, Terry Lofton, he read me constantly about me being an atheist. As a matter of fact, he would never call me Bill Zebub, he'd call me Bill Zeb. And when he first found out that I'm an atheist, he came upon the discovery by asking if I was aware that my name sounds a lot like the devil. and and the funny thing is, Beelzebub is not the devil, he's a devil.
Right.
Like, that's one funny thing about fundamentalists. Like, everything is supposed to be word for word the truth, but they don't seem to know what the words are.
Right.
Like Beelzebub is not interchangeable with Lucifer. And Beelzebub, the original history was he was a Phoenician god who then became a demon. It's kind of funny, like when your people are taken over, your gods become the lesser beings.
Right.
Not in all cases, but just I just find it funny that people who wave a flag have no idea what their creed is.
Right.
It just seems like a great way to tell other people what to do. But anyway, with Terry, I remember when he first found out that I was an atheist, it seemed like there was a big distance between us. And then I tried to make him understand that religion is not necessary for you to be a good person. We're human, and humans are a social species. Like, we're a social species, humans. So we have to get along with other people. The people who don't, they. I don't want to get into the whole evolutionary psychology aspect of it all, but the simple concept was that, even though I don't believe in heaven or hell, I'm not a bad person.
Right.
I do believe in consequences. Like, there's consequences to behavior. If I mouth off the wrong person, I'll get my teeth knocked out.
Right.
Or if I break this law, I go to jail. But I don't think that my behavior is motivated by fear of punishment. Like a Christian might be afraid of going to hell. That doesn't make you good. Fear of punishment doesn't make you a good person, but doing good just for the sake of doing something good, that makes you a good person, and you don't need religion for that. But Terry was always making comments, but he didn't mean anything by it. After a while, he realized, what I am, and
Right.
he was all right with that. But I know, based on him, that and he's out in Texas, which I guess is a little bit more understanding than the deeps of South
Right.
Carolina.
Right.
So I really wonder how it is to live in a place like that. Like, does everything shut down at 9:00?
Oh yeah, we can't buy alcohol on Sundays. And there's a blue law on Sundays where you can't even buy clothes or anything until 1 in the afternoon. The only thing you can buy is food and medicine on Sunday mornings. And then,
Whoa.
yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. And
Even though I'm in Ohio, we have the same beer law, but only in certain counties. It's not
Right.
all throughout Ohio. It's just certain places.
well, some of the counties here have banned the blue law, but I'm in one of them that said, no, we like that. We like, Jesus didn't want us to buy clothes on Sunday mornings.
Yeah, I've seen some places churches are like McDonald's.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
But
I in my lifetime have experienced some prejudice from people in power who were mega Christian. So I wondered, if I experienced that here in New Jersey. And by the way, I'm not proud of living in New Jersey. It's just where I live.
right.
But I wonder what it's like where, it seems that life is more, community based, where, you stand out if you're different, or are you penalized for being who you are?
I'll tell you one thing. I don't get asked to donate money anymore. Now that I have tattoos, and everything, they have the people out on Christmas ringing their bells, and they look at me, and they completely look away and wait till I go by, which is a delight, because I don't have any money to give them.
Do you have people going door to door?
Yeah, but not in the area that I live in, because it's just kind of out in the boondocks, kind of. So, but yeah, generally, yeah, there's people door to door trying to spread the word, and it's Jehovah's Witnesses, it's every religion.
All right. Well,
in 1 week you can hear about everything.
My movie, Jesus is a Total Douchebag, instead of a synopsis, it just has this word of advice. 9 next time someone knocks on your door asking to talk to you about Jesus, agree, but only if that person watches the movie.
Yeah.
So it begins with the Immaculate Conception.
Perfect.
And, I've always said, back then, virginity was measured by whether or not the hymen was intact. So in order for Mary to still be a virgin after, God must have had a really small and thin penis. Why are people against divorce or marriage? Like, God got her pregnant and didn't marry her.
Right.
He had some other guy raise the kid. So
this whole time Mari has been God.
Yeah. So that was question 1.
Oh! All right.
That was
the horrifying thing. I don't think I've ever watched a movie that horrified me since I was a child, but Avatar horrified me. The first time I watched it, I walked out because I just couldn't take the social agenda. But I went back in because I like 3D, and I just went in for the visuals. I was tuning everything out.
Oh, I hate 3D.
You hate 3D?
Oh, it's the death of movies.
But yeah, the social agenda, the oppressive social agenda, just really horrified me that I'm living during this time. But still, I think it's better than maybe living in Nazi Germany.
Right. I actually I worked in the theater and I got to watch that movie for free, and I left an hour into it. I haven't seen it. I just saw the hour.
Wow.
Done. So I
do plan to buy it for my collection because I do like the visuals. It's just that, as I said, it's horrifying, the oppressive social agenda.
Let's go to question 2 for you.
You have another hour?
Yeah, we got another hour. Another hour?
Go ahead.
What's the best movie you've seen in the last 5 years?
Oh, there's a movie I saw almost on accident. There was a video place going out of business, and each week movies were costing less and less. And in their final week, they had some absurd, like buy 20 movies for $5.99.
Right.
And so I was 19 movies in, and I couldn't decide on the 20th. And there was this movie on the shelf called Time Crimes. The cover looked stupid. The synopsis,
the guy with the red mask,
seemed stupid. I don't remember what it looked like.
Yeah.
But it sat on a pile for a while, and when I watched it, it's a low budget movie, and that doesn't turn me off, but it took a while to get into the movie, to buy into the rules of the movie. Like this is what it looks like, this is what it is. But that was one of my favorites for a long time, and the reason why I'm pointing that one out is that I can't remember telling as many people about a movie as I did about Time Crimes. Like, ignore the stupidity of the title.
Right.
It's also in the Spanish language. I think it has subtitles.
Right.
I don't speak Spanish, so it must have subtitles.
Yeah.
But I really, really liked it. It was unique. Although, I then saw a movie called Triangle, which is an American movie.
That was a good movie.
And I'm not sure which one took ideas from the other, but there are some similarities. But Time Crimes is the superior of the two.
Well,
I just really got a big. It made me think a lot.
Yeah. Well, what's your favorite movie that you've worked on so far?
I had fun in all the movies except for Disgruntled Employee. That's a movie I shot for somebody else. It's just that there are a lot of things that were very aggravating during the making of it.
Right.
And also, I had to work much harder for it because it was for somebody else.
Right.
But I have fun in all the movies. This latest one, Jesus, the Daughter of God, I think is the most fun just because it's the freshest.
Right.
I don't really have a memory unless, I have an orgasm for no reason or or if something bad happens. So I would just say that, and it's only the default answer because it's the latest one.
Wait, on one
But
of your
it's
sets,
been a lot of fun.
on one of your sets, did you have an orgasm for no reason?
Well, I've been trying for a long time to have one just from mental stimulation. So I don't know if maybe I had done it with a hand and just forgot that my hand was on it, but I distinctly remember it just being the power of my mind. It had nothing to do with the movie, so yeah.
What? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'll guess the question and answer with the word locker.
Okay, that doesn't really fit.
What was the question?
What is the worst movie monster of all time?
Locker.
Locker. As much as I hate the first worst horror movie ever made, I liked the shit demon in it.
Right.
Because it was actually a Raggedy Ann doll with chocolate. And the teeth were corn kernels. and googly eyes. As a kid, I watched monster movies, and I loved them. And then as an adult, I saw how cheesy they were. Do you remember Land of the Lost? I don't mean the Will Ferrell movie.
Right.
But the TV show?
Yeah.
I love the sleeve stack, but now they're comical.
I have a picture of Slee Stacks framed on my wall right in front of me. I was obsessed with it when I was a kid.
Or the Gorn on Star Trek?
Right, yeah. It looks just like them.
They were cool, but, now as an adult, they're just so fake. And at one time, that was, I don't know if that was groundbreaking, but those were the effects.
Right.
I don't know. I don't like those things out of nostalgia. I just like cheese, personally.
I do too.
But I would never say something's the worst monster because I like monsters.
Well, that's a perfect lead into our next question: is what's your cheesy guilty pleasure outside of the horror movies? Like, what movie would you consider to be a guilty pleasure that you wouldn't tell people you watch?
Well, I don't really have a reputation to defend. I'm a metalhead, but I like Duran Duran. I have no problem saying that.
Right.
Recently, did I see something that you wouldn't think I would watch? Oh, I just got Babe on Blu-ray.
There you go. That'll do.
And it's awesome.
That is amazing.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. So I would say Babe because I actually just watched it.
Good pick.
What do you
so
think?
Cute. How could you not like that? Oh. And the voice. Sometimes there are puppets that have stupid voices.
Right.
There's 3D movies that have bad voices, but the voice for Babe was perfect. So cute.
Yeah.
God damn, that was cute.
What do you think about all the remakes in Hollywood right now?
When I was younger, I saw Halloween, and it was so boring that I couldn't make it to the end. I was fast-forwarding. I couldn't take how boring it was. When I saw Rob Zombie's Halloween, I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, I did too.
And I know that it's very trendy to bash Rob Zombie, but I hate his music. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Right.
But he seems to be a creative spirit. Maybe not his music. His music is garbage, but...
No, I agree with you. Everyone bashes him, but I love... The Devil's Rejects is one of my favorite movies.
So, yeah, I like that. I don't have a flat-out hatred or love of a remake. I just like things that I like. I can't help it.
Right.
I don't know. There was just a remake of Total Recall. I hadn't seen the first one, and I was just going to let the remake go. I'd watch it on Blu-ray or something if I liked the original. And the original was pure idiocy.
Yeah.
So I have no interest in seeing the remake. I don't know why they remade it. I don't know if Total Recall was actually a blockbuster, if it was really good, but I don't see a point in that. I didn't like any part of the movie. There's not one good thing for me.
Not even Quado?
I don't want to say that, to generalize to the public, but personally, from what I need in a movie, I can't imagine anything in Total Recall being worthy of a remake.
So you're saying the 3 tits on that girl did not do anything for you? What's your favorite horror movie decade?
Again, I'm not really faithful to anything other than what I like.
Right.
It's not an era. I love Laurel and Hardy.
Yes.
I saw everything.
I saw them in the movie.
I have everything. And in the beginning of I don't really want to say that I ever made slapstick, but I gave a lot of nods to them. It's just sad that there's nothing like Laurel and Hardy now. They weren't like the Three Stooges. The Three Stooges, it seemed like they couldn't wait to bonk each other or whatever. But with Laurel and Hardy, whenever the fat guy fell, Oliver Hardy, he was embarrassed.
Right.
So, and they were also endearing. It just went beyond the physical and the music, the Hal Roach Studios. By the way, there's a Dutch band, I think, called the Bohunks. I think they're Dutch. I know they're called the Bohunks, and I had permission to use their music. So I use it from time to time. It's the same kind of style. I don't know what the genre of that music is. I don't know what you would call it, but it really fits. But I'm not sure if it just fits that out of my own nostalgia or if it truly is the best music to put behind, people falling down.
Right.
or whatever. But that would be the only decade or era type stuff that I'm aware of. Like, Hal Roach Studios also did the Little Rascals, and I also own everything that has Little Rascals or the Old Gang. I don't know if that really means anything to some of your listeners.
Definitely.
Well, I know in your movie you had Hardy. I think he killed WD and raped WD, didn't he?
By the way, do you know how many angry people contact me, ask me, where the fuck did I get the Hitler doll?
Oh my God! What the fuck? That's fucked up. No, if you don't know who Laurel and Hardy is, you're not American.
That's just
what is it? Fat Hitler? that should be the next movie. I'm telling you, we're working on movie ideas for you on this show. And then we got
that actually would be funny to have a movie called Fat Hitler.
And see, there's a thing called B-word fat, where when you pronounce like Batman, you'd be like Batman. So if you did that with Hitler, we must kill the Jews. You just never understand what he's saying. And the last question we have, Stacey, you want to take it?
I thought you said 8 questions.
It is 8 questions. It's the 8th one. That was 7.
Oh, okay.
Lay off me.
All right.
What is something you've learned from horror movies? What is one thing you'll never do because you saw it in a horror movie?
Oh, you mean like if you're trapped in a house with somebody or whatever?
Yeah, like I'm never ever gonna go caving.
I've never learned anything from horror movies because they're not realistic. If I may talk about some of the sex horrors that I've released, some of the comments are like, they weren't creative kills. I'm like, I'm not making a Freddy Krueger or Jason movie.
Right.
Like if I'm making a movie about a serial killer, he's got his MO.
Right.
And so that's another thing that separates me. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'd rather be truthful or, obeying the laws of reality than obeying the laws of cinema. So if you really need to watch something like that, go watch an action movie. If you want creative kills, go watch Friday the 13th or something like that. But if you want to be disturbed, another thing is the serial killers who I picked aren't alpha males. I always make sure that they're, true to life. Like if you met an average serial killer, you wouldn't be afraid of the person. Well, I guess it depends on the serial killer, but it's not a person who would ever strike fear in you. It's like a bottom feeder. So I also, from a movie making point of view, never want to make a serial killer look cool. Like I want to be like that guy.
Right.
So it bothers me that movies like Breaking Her Will got banned in Canada because they just see it as a jerk-off movie. And although I've made movies like that, like I told you not to call the police and Captive Audience, they were made strictly to generate profit so I could make fucked up comedies.
Right.
But Breaking Her Will had a story behind it, and I also wanted to see, when the villain cries, he's not crying for the reasons you think he is, but will you still have sympathy? And also, if you know his his history, does it excuse what he does? Do you feel sympathy for him? Like you and I, and I'm talking you plural.
Right.
We've faced rejection in our lives, but we've moved on. We might be sad about certain things, but we moved on. But there are some people who, for some reason, become extremely vindictive. They want revenge, they want power, they have felt, robbed of this and that. Clearly there's something wrong with those people, and so do you look at people who torture as people who are sick and who should be pitied?
Right.
Maybe an average viewer wouldn't think that, but I was mad that got banned, and it also got pulled from Amazon, but then some vendors or some private sellers listed it for double the retail value.
Well, see, and that sucks because that's the kind of movie that I like to get. Like, if I hear something's banned, that means I have to watch it.
Oh, and then there's this new thing to me, but it has been going on for a while. I first heard of it, and I thought it was absurd that my movie Metalheads, some people couldn't buy it because their credit cards considered it porn. And I didn't know that, porn was illegal. And
yeah.
I guess in some areas of the country it is, but this one fan in New Jersey, his credit card wouldn't process the order for Metalheads. And I didn't know at the time that there's a movement. I don't know whether it's credit card processors or a credit card company will not fulfill an order, will not process an order if there's violence against women, unless it's got an MPAA rating of R or PG or whatever.
Right.
So Hollywood can make a movie like Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
Like that was in the theaters. So an underage girl gets raped in that. That's fine. You can buy that. As a matter of fact, an underage person could probably go into Best Buy and buy it.
Irreversible. I've seen Irreversible in Best Buy and everywhere, and that's probably the most violent rape scene I've ever seen in any movie.
That was the first rape scene I ever saw that wasn't sex. And I don't mean that as a joke. It's just
right.
Usually rape scenes in B movies are bad. They're laughable.
Right.
So, me not looking at it as like a real act, just see like this hot girl, like, ooh.
And Monica Bellucci sold that. I mean, I felt like they were actually raping her on set.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But again, Breaking Her Will, that was the next hint that, there's something going on that I should know about, because, that movie is not like strictly prurient, I guess is the word, where, there is a story. I'm trying to tell a story, and I'm also trying to show, like Kill the Scream Queen showed something very true. Like most girls who are getting into acting, they don't have, chaperones come with them.
Right.
Like you could be a stranger, so I wonder why more of them aren't attacked or hurt. Models sometimes tell me that, here and there they get fondled or whatever, and then they bark and the person backs down. But, it could be much more serious than that. Anyway, getting back to the Breaking Her Will, Ravage the Scream Queen was the next one that got banned in Canada, and got removed from Amazon and stuff like that. And then this company, TLA, which sold huge amounts of my sex horrors, suddenly took all of my movies off their catalog and off their website. And I thought that maybe I had said something in an interview that pissed them off, or that maybe I didn't advertise, because people get spiteful.
Right.
But I was thinking, like, if they made that much money, wouldn't they just eat it? Like, if they didn't like a comment I made?
Right, yeah, exactly.
But then one guy there explained that the credit card processor will not process anymore. They had a contract with... the one guy who told me the situation said that their new contract with the... By the way, I'm not playing that music. I'm in a parking lot. I told you.
Okay.
If you hear any kind of dance music... That's not me getting naked while I say this.
Yet.
So, that really messed me up. And so they said that if I get an MPAA rating, they could bring my movies back up. But until then, no.
It's not worth the hassle, though. MPA is a joke.
Yeah, that's all a scam. But the positive side of all this is that when I made Captive Audience and I told you not to call the police, I was worried about getting a reputation as a person who made those movies rather than as a person who made movies like Antfarm Dickhole.
Right.
That's what I want to be known for, making entertaining movies, not jerk-off movies.
Right.
So that pretty much forced my hand that I have to be who I am, because when I make movies like I told you not to call the police, there's no difference between me doing that and making wedding videos.
Right.
That's like movies for hire, as far as I'm concerned. So, all those people did was bring me back to myself, making movies that probably are more vile, as far as they're concerned anyway. I just hate the way things are going. I saw a Penn and Teller episode wherein apparently the idea for political correctness came from a guy who studied the Nazis and decided to use their tools of manipulation for good. And manipulation is evil no matter what. Whatever your intentions are, manipulating people is not good.
Right.
So that's why the cheesiest science fiction movie ever made has a little bit more bite to it than it normally would have had, because I'm fed up. Because now it actually has eaten my wallet. Granted, I should have stopped making those movies anyway, but I really hate having someone else tell me that I can't do it. I'll do it. I might make a movie so vile and put it up on a torrent, personally, free forever.
Right.
How is that protecting the world? That's not protecting the world. That's just having stupid fucking control. Little dick syndrome. Although, if I ever make another serial killer movie, well, I shouldn't say if. When I do, the beginning of it will actually say some things that should have been said in earlier movies. That it's not cool to hurt women. This is not a movie to glorify that. It's a movie to show something disturbing.
Right.
But not to glorify. Things like that. But
because before on the beginning of movies, I know you put on the remake, you put Beelzebub as a sexy beast or something like that.
Well, it's because a lot of people don't know, and I like to educate.
Yeah, let people know.
I like to give positive messages.
Well, Bill, thank you
about myself and my movies.
Well, thank you so much for spending. I mean, you spent 2 hours with us. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
2 hours, really?
Yeah, we and that's awesome. We if anytime you want to come back and talk with us. We'll
All right, what are you doing in half an hour?